leaves and use it to acquire a player that might make LeBron want to stay. They didn't do that. The Nets won some games down the stretch. They ended up not hitting lottery luck, so they have the 8th pick. What does this do to LeBron's future? Listen, LeBron's playing his last games in Cleveland this year. Now, whether those happen in the NBA Finals or whether those happen next week will be determined by how well they play against Boston in the final games remaining in this series. But I believe that even had the Cavs won the lottery again, gotten the #1 overall pick, that LeBron was not staying in Cleveland.
Because for you, it was all about whether they got to the final. He got to the final.
Whether they won a championship. And I started feeling the last few months of the year, that even if they won a championship, he would be leaving. This roster doesn't have a great future. The situation in Cleveland's become toxic. It was never repaired with the owner. I see no reason LeBron would even entertain staying in Cleveland.
Yeah, he's got to entertain it because he's got too much going on off the court. He's doing too many things in Northeast Ohio. His family's from there. His kids are doing well there. So it is an option. Like, we can't forget the draw of Ohio on LeBron James. He's from Ohio. That's the only reason why he came back. Now, he's already given them a championship. So Cleveland will always be in the picture. But I believed all along that he was going to leave. He can't compete for championships because that's what it's about with LeBron right now. He's going for his 8th consecutive trip to the finals. We haven't seen this type of success in our lifetime. LeBron James is going to try to win more championships, and he can't win them in Cleveland. He would love to be able to stay in Cleveland. And I believe he can get beyond what the owner, him and the owner, or the lack of relationship that he has with the owner, if he felt like that was the best chance for him to build his resume.
Every 4 months I ask you this, and it's about time, so I'm going to ask you again. If it's about championships for LeBron James, if that's the thing that he's chasing, and he's watching and he sees what Kevin Durant did, it's been floated out there. Any chance he goes to Golden State?
Listen, I heard Steven Jackson and Chris tell me yesterday that's the hardest thing to do, is to go play with great players. So, I mean, if he wants a challenge, evidently.
Right.
If you're a great player, it's harder to play with great players because there's less time for you to have the ball. All right? It's more of a sacrifice that you personally have to make offensively and defensively, compared with bad players.
The sacrifice part I might agree with. The difficulty part, I think LeBron's got a harder job right now.
I have played so long that I'm just going to tell you, it's a lot harder.
So let me just ask you. So if LeBron, it would be more difficult for LeBron next season going to Golden State.
Going to Houston.
Then
say go to Houston.
Going to, or sure, than staying in Cleveland.
Yeah, because I think that's more realistic. Yes, because he has to sacrifice, and he's going to have the ball less. All right? If he joins Chris Paul and James Harden, he's going to have the ball less. Agreed. Now, what do you think is harder? Him without the ball or him scoring 40, 10, and 12?
I think LeBron right now has the hardest job of any NBA.
You know how easy he went to that press conference last night? He said, hey, LeBron, how much you worrying about this? I mean, I did my best. I put my heart on the line. Like, I did my best. That part right there is a lot easier than standing in the corner when you have other talented players, not being able to get the ball enough, not being able to have the type of impact on the game that you're used to.
Listen, maybe we're parsing words between difficulty and sacrifice. You would have to sacrifice your numbers as a pro basketball player if you go play with other great players. But Kevin Durant's job is easier in Golden State than it was in Oklahoma City. Steph Curry's job got easier when Kevin Durant got there than before Kevin Durant was there.
Yes, their job got easier, but it's harder on them. I keep saying on them, all right? Not their job, on them personally, all right?
Okay, so then that's why I was saying we're parsing. So that's so if you're talking about mentally, the strain of it, the sacrifice, that part I understand. But then I was talking about the difficulty of the job. To your question, though, could he go to Golden State? I mean, I know like Kevin Durant can go to Golden State, and if you criticize him, you're being unfair to the player. But LeBron's not allowed to go to Golden State. Like, that's not my rules. But if LeBron went to Golden State, whatever the reaction to him going to Miami, put that on steroids, and it should be. LeBron's too great of a player to go say, okay, people wouldn't even count those championships for him. He can go to a lot of places. He can't go to Golden State.
It's a waste of space talking about LeBron going to Golden State. It's not in the cards. A lot of things can happen. Going to Golden State is not
one of them. All right, speaking of Houston, which is one place maybe he could go, let's move on to tonight's Game 2, the Western Conference Finals. The Rockets trying to even that series at a game apiece. Despite 41 points from James Harden, The Rockets took a lot of criticism for their reliance on isolation ball in Game 1, a complaint that didn't fly with Rockets head coach Mike D'Antoni.
It's like, oh my gosh, ISO, that's all we do. No, it didn't. And that's what we do best. We scored like 60% of the time on it. It's like, no, really? All of a sudden, oh, they don't pass, everybody stand. Really? Well, you watch this for 82 games, that's what we do. We are who we are, and we're pretty good at it, and we can't get off who we are and embrace it. Just be better of who we are. And don't worry about somebody else solves the puzzle a different way. Yeah, that's how they solve it. We solve our puzzle this way. We got to play it at our strengths, and we know our strengths, and we just got to do it better.
All right, CC, besides trying somehow to slow down or stop Kevin Durant, what adjustments do the Rockets have to make now to win Game 2?
They got to run more motion. The reason why I have a problem with what D'Antoni's talking about is, yes, that is a part of what you do. But if you're going to telegraph the pass, if you're going to tell me you're going to do isolation twice as much as you did before, right. This is a top 5 defense. They've been a top 5 defense the last 4 years. And the top 5 defense will make the adjustments. They will cut out your second chance points. They'll freeze out the other players, play them up on the 3-point line, and you get the result that you got in game number 1. To me, it's not about ego. You got to swallow your pride. And that's all the coach is talking about here. They ask him a question. Oh, you watch us? Yeah, coach, we're watching you. Yeah, we know exactly what you did. You isolated 20% of the time. And that's not how you won 65 games. It was how you went from that style to having Chris Paul on the point, to getting the ball in a motion offense, to getting up and down. That's how you won 65 games.
Listen, Mike, if you didn't watch Game 1 and you would say, oh, the Rockets ran a bunch of isolations, they lost, and D'Antoni's asking, did you watch us play? It would make sense. But CeCe's point about, in the regular season, they ran more isolations than any team in basketball, 22 per game. In Game 1 of this series, they ran 45 isolation plays. That's more than any team in any game in 5 years. So you weren't actually doing what you did in the regular season. You were doing it twice as much. Now, there are benefits. I know people say that every team should run like the Warriors run. Teams don't have the personnel the Warriors have, but also there's benefits to doing it the way the Rockets do. Historically low turnover rate has been a benefit. The fewer passes you throw. That's why the Warriors, they are near record-setting assist rate, but also they are amongst the great teams. They turn the ball over more than just about anybody. So there are downsides to that. I understand the Rockets saying we're not going to change who we are. Because I would like to see this be a series, so I would like to see the Rockets win tonight, I would like them to try to go back to who they are, which is you had 22 isolations a game as a team during the season. James Harden had 23 by himself in Game 1. That wasn't actually who you were. It became exclusively who you were in Game 1, and that was problematic for them offensively. And then defensively, go ahead, Steve.
Defensively, they got to play better. You have to be able to, you can't lose Klay Thompson as many times as they did. Now, they did a good job on Klay. And from a defensive standpoint, if Kevin Durant gets hot early, you have to expect he's one of the greatest scorers in the history of this game. You got to be able to send him a double team. You got to be able to give him different looks. Because my thing is you just can't be boneheaded and just say, listen, I'm going to force this. I'm not going to double team Kevin Durant. You're going to lose this series if you don't double team him and if you go too much isolation. So those are the 2 adjustments I expect the Rockets to make.
And I'm going to go back to this because the Rockets did it in Game 1. They just did it too late. One of the reasons you can't double team Kevin Durant is because Kevin Durant's on the court with Klay and Steph. So try to get Steph off the court. We saw in Game 1, Steph, if you isolate him on the ball handler, he will reach. He will foul. He had 5 second-half fouls. Do that early to try to get him off the court. And, Jenna, what did I tell you were the key moments for the Rockets to take advantage of? Steve Kerr, for a reason I don't understand, takes Steph and KD out simultaneously. Start the second, start the fourth. There were 7 minutes like that in Game 1. The Warriors played Rockets dead even in those 7 minutes. You have to dominate them in the few minutes when Steph and KD are off the court. They didn't do that in Game 1. Those are missed opportunities.
What do you think is going to happen tonight?
I think the Warriors are going to win. I think they're a better team. I think the Warriors are going to win.
If the Warriors win tonight, this is, to me, the last meaningful NBA game that will be played this year. If the Warriors win tonight, they win the series. And does anyone at this desk think that whoever comes out of the East can compete with them if they make the finals? Does anybody? Like, if the Warriors win tonight, Houston can't come back from 0-2 down when those two games are at home. Like, that's so. If that happens, then the Warriors, then it's all just preamble to the parade for Golden State that'll happen in a few weeks.
All right, we shall see. We're going to take a break.